Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land, here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch whose flame is the imprisoned lightning, and her name, Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that twin cities frame. Keep, ancient lands, your storied pomp, cries she with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shores, send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. That is the patrimony of New Yorkers. What it means to be a New Yorker is to wake up every day with that copper-plated statue in the harbor saying, this is the city that welcomes hungry people from around the world, the most remarkable immigrant city the world has ever known, to a place where that diversity, that hunger, that striving will become creativity, will become ingenuity and entrepreneurship, will become the young people of this playground, will become an extraordinary diversity of this city. And so when we show up at 26 Federal Plaza, when we support immigrants' rights groups in our neighborhood, when we demand and pass and defend and implement sanctuary city laws, we are doing it because that's what it means to be New Yorkers. And I can't tell you how enthusiastic I am to go from the mayor we currently have, who has sold out New York's immigrant heritage in a corrupt deal with Donald Trump, to instead have the first immigrant mayor in a century, a Muslim mayor, somebody who's connected so deeply to the diverse communities of this city, for whom the words on that statue are not some long ago idea, but are the breathing present and future of a New York that everyone can afford, where everyone is welcome, where all our kids can thrive. And so when we think about what is necessary to defend this sanctuary city, to be worthy of that Mother of Exiles, of that Statue of Liberty in the harbor, we have a brilliant, beautiful, clear choice. And that is to support our dear friend, the next mayor of New York City, the first immigrant mayor in a century. The Statue of Liberty is smiling on this election in November, and it is my great honor to welcome to the podium our Democratic nominee, the next mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani.
Thank you. Before I speak, I'll just have some of my colleagues from the state legislature, and then I will wrap this up. Thank you. No, please don't.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Assemblymember Tony Simone. Zohran has been my colleague and a friend, and I'm so proud to be here with you and my other colleagues, and Brad Lander and Jessica Gonzalez-Rojas, my dear friend as well. I wish we were here on a happier note. I wish we were here to celebrate, and we will be eventually, the next mayor of the city of New York, our first immigrant mayor, who knows how to bring people together. But unfortunately, I am here, and we're all here and have been here, because what's happening in our city and our state and across this nation is un-American. It is not the America we believe in. My mom is Latina from Peru. I have relatives who are undocumented, some with their work visas, and others who are just scared because it's not just undocumented immigrants they're going after. This administration, with his allies, it's a shameful thing that the current mayor of New York is not protecting fellow New Yorkers, or calling out the inhumane conditions at 26 Federal Plaza, which we tried to go and look to prove to make sure they're following a judge's order. They're dehumanizing our New Yorkers and our fellow American family. We're one human family, and we will continue to grow. They are trying to divide us. That's the only way this fascist administration and his allies, and to the other candidates who I'm ashamed of. Where's Andrew Cuomo protecting our immigrant families? Where is he not calling out what ICE is doing? Yesterday, a mom was separated from her kids. They're separating mothers from their kids. They're going after war veterans who served in our wars, fathers of Marines. The American people need to wake up. And lastly, I just want to say, I'm glad that we have a mayoral candidate who will soon be mayor, who will stand up for all New Yorkers, including immigrant New Yorkers and Americans in general, because he always has. He's not new to this fight. We must stand together. I call out my Republican colleagues, my Democratic colleagues who are chicken on this issue. Rise up. We can talk about affordability and protecting our fellow New Yorkers who thrive in our economy. Our economy will suffer without them. Out of many, one.
My name is Assemblymember Jessica Gonzalez Rojas. I want to welcome you to Queens, which is the world's borough. This is a borough where immigrants make our community amazing, great, wonderful. They are the essential part of our neighborhood. I am a daughter of an immigrant. I bear a necklace that says that. My father's from Paraguay. He came here also with the American dream, like so many others here in Queens. And he's achieved that. He's now a professor at a SUNY college in Farmingdale. But unfortunately, so many New Yorkers who are immigrants are now fearful of living their life, of the opportunities to thrive and contribute. And we know who our immigrants are. They are our teachers. They are our nurses. They are our restaurant workers. And in my community in Jackson Heights, we lost a beloved restaurant workers who served our community with love. We adored this person. And he was taken by ICE by following the law. He went to 26 Federal Plaza for a hearing and was taken, ripped from his family, his wife and his 3 children. And we had gone down to 26 Federal Plaza to bear witness, to call upon the inhumane conditions that were happening, to see if they were following federal law. And we have a mayor who is complicit in allowing ICE to abduct and disappear New Yorkers. We will not stand for that. So I'm proud to stand here as a friend of Zohran Mamdani, someone who we've been in the struggle for many years together. We were both insurgents in 2020, running for a world and a city that we believe in, one that provides opportunity for people not just to survive in New York City, but to thrive, one where everyone can live with safety and dignity and with health. And that's the world where we're fighting for, and that's the New York City that we need. We're in a playground. We see children here and families. This is what we need. This is an immigrant-dense community. And we want everyone to feel safe and loved and cared for by our elected officials, especially the mayor of New York City. So I'm so proud and so grateful to stand here with Zohran Mamdani, who will stand for every single New Yorker despite immigration status, because he understands that we are not caricatures, that we are not stereotypes, and we are not tropes. We are New Yorkers who are contributing to the fabric of this city. So thank you so much for being here, and I present you our next mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani.
Thank you. I want to thank my friends and colleagues for being here this morning. Thanking Brad and Tony and JGR for not only standing here, but for standing with immigrant New Yorkers. And as Jessica said, we are here in a neighborhood that so many immigrants call home. And we are here speaking about not only our vision for this city as it should be, but also the reality of the city as it is today. You know, yesterday, a video was brought to light that Brad shared with our colleague, State Senator Gustavo Rivera, showcasing the very acts that shocked the conscience, not just of New Yorkers, but of Americans from coast to coast across this entire country. The wife of a detained man begging an ICE agent to free her husband. When he ignored her, she pleaded to be taken too. And behind her stood 2 young children. And after taunting her with a response of adios, adios, suddenly that agent threw her to the ground. The kids began to cry, traumatized by the sight of their mother being assaulted in a government building. And when she was released, she said, "In Ecuador, they beat us there too. I didn't think I'd come here to the United States and the same thing would happen to me." And we welcome the news that that officer has been relieved of their duties. And yet what shocked us was not simply that act, but was the fact that we knew that that act is taking place every day across this country, oftentimes unseen, unnoticed, and unabashed in its cruelty. And it's important that we describe it, that we stand up to it, because if we do not, it becomes normalized. It was only because of the response to this act that that officer has been relieved. And it is only from the responses from those who have been standing on the front lines of this fight, and so many Americans across the country, that we will finally hold this administration accountable for the ways in which they have torn apart the very fabric of this country. And we know that where New York City should reject these horrors, we have instead had a city hall and an administration that has embraced them. One that has accepted a deal that would wrap the personal freedom of this mayor intertwined with the assistance of an immigration agenda of this federal administration. And we know what happened yesterday is just par for the course, where a mayor is willing to broker a deal with a president no matter the cost it comes to the people that he's elected to serve, willing to enmesh ICE in our jails, on our streets, in day-to-day life across this city. And I look at those around me who showcase the model for how we can stand up for this city, who go to 26 Federal Plaza again and again to try and shed some light on the ways in which not only is this administration breaking the law, judgments from court orders, but also doing so in a brazen fashion that is as if gleeful in the cruelty they impart upon New Yorkers. And I will be a mayor who will finally turn the page on this chapter of our city. A mayor who not only defends but is proud of our sanctuary city laws. One that recognizes that they are laws that keep us safe. One that looks at this city and the 40% of its residents who were born outside of this country as just as New York as anyone else. And one that commits to hiring the 200 lawyers such that our law department can finally return to pre-pandemic levels. One that ensures we increase legal representation of immigrant New Yorkers who are under attack. And one that learns from the manner in which we took on the first Trump administration, where we had a city hall that was willing to protect immigrant New Yorkers' personal information lest it be used for the purposes of facilitating a deportation machine. And while I will do these things, I will do so in stark contrast to a former governor, Andrew Cuomo, who, as Assemblymember Simone has said, has not only been quiet amidst this kind of repression, whether it be the attack on this mother or the detaining of a 6-year-old girl right in the neighborhood where Assemblywoman Gonzalez Rojas represents, but also a man who told New Yorkers shocked at the actions of this administration in California and said, let's not overreact. A man who got on the debate stage alongside Comptroller Lander and myself and called undocumented New Yorkers illegals. And a man for whom Federal Plaza is a place that he dare not name, because lest it complicate his effort to work with this president to subvert the will of Democratic primary voters. And so I stand here thinking not just of that woman, not just of her 2 children, not just of her husband, but also of the countless whose names we do not know, whose faces we have never seen, and who are one part of the story of a shadow that has descended upon our nation, of the ripping up of the very words that Comptroller Lander began this press conference with, and a betrayal of the values that make so many of us so proud to belong to this city. And we stand here in recognition of that betrayal and in a shared commitment and purpose to once again live up to those ideals, because those ideals will endure far longer than the ones who are in power betraying them today. Thank you so much.
We'll start with on-topic questions, and the Comptroller and Assembly members will do questions as well. On-topic questions.
If you guys want to
Kelly.
jump in, you can feel free as well.
Yeah, you mentioned that the ICE officer that was able to welcome that, but you know, being there myself, that's just one instance. Do you think that the ICE officer
you want to start with this?
Thank you, Zohran. I have a bill with the great State Senator Pat Fay, the same exact bill, modeled after the California bill. It's not just for ICE, it's for all law enforcement. You know, we talked about the drama about mass protesters, but yet we have unidentified secret police in the United States of America. There's even been cases across the country where people imitated them and robbed a home. It's un-American for masked police to be enforcing any law, and we know they're not all following the law. You've seen what happened yesterday, as Zohran has said. So many cases are not being videotaped. It's un-American. And I call upon my leader in the Assembly and in the Senate that we pass the MELT Act, which will eliminate the use of masks in law enforcement and force people to have identifiable badge and number. You have to be held accountable for what you're doing in this nation. I know from on up high in the White House down, many have not been held accountable, but eventually they will.
And I think the very premise of your question is one that we have to underline. This is but the tip of the iceberg of what we are seeing in terms of ICE's actions across the country. And I have appreciated in so many who have stood up against this an emphasis on the fact that the law is something that has to be followed, no matter whether we are even speaking of law enforcement agents such as ICE agents themselves. Governor Pritzker made that clear when Donald Trump sought to deploy the National Guard to Illinois, that those same members would be held to the same laws as everyone else in that state. And that is the message that we have. Though Donald Trump may treat the law as if it is a suggestion, we know what it actually is, and that is something to be followed.
Just really quick, yesterday the DOI put out a report that an officer with the Department of Corrections on 2 instances of the civil immigration enforcement here in the city, which he shouldn't do, but he blamed it on not being trained enough. Your reaction to that, and then will you have some sort of trainings if you were to be elected mayor?
In the DOI's own findings, they too stated that this was the result of a lack of training by the Adams administration. And it showcases a result of an administration that has sought to collaborate with the federal government, and one whose collaboration is being spelled out in the open. When the indictment was being dropped for Eric Adams, it was being stated for all of us to see that it was done with an intent to facilitate the immigration objectives of this federal government. And so it is no surprise that New Yorkers who are working for that same administration are not being trained in the manner that they should to follow the law and to ensure that civil immigration is not something that is being carried out in assistance with ICE agents.
Yeah, Gloria.
2 questions. For the Comptroller, I know you were there yesterday. I know not in the immediate floor where the incident happened, but what can you share more about Ms. Galarza? I understand your office has been in communication. Tell us a little bit about her. Are her children U.S. citizens? What have you been able to learn about their story? And for you, Zohran, I hear you on hiring lawyers so that people can have representation. I guess I'm wondering if there's anything you feel you might be able to do more in the immediate win in November to stop what's happening at 26 federal, considering that that is federal jurisdiction and the city has sort of limited power when it comes to what goes on in that.
No. I mean, I think these questions are really linked because, look, what the video from yesterday shocked people's consciences. I had in my mention several people who were like, who admitted they're Trump supporters, that they don't even disagree on immigration policy, but they were still horrified by what took place yesterday, except that it is happening every day. And many of you have been down there, and, you know, I want to praise the press corps who have been there showing. Last week, an individual, I think was a U.S. citizen, was choked by an ICE agent. There are brutal family separations, you know, almost every day, certainly weekly. And, I mean, you could see it in that agent yesterday. I mean, he's drunk on violence. Yeah. He was, when we say the cruelty is the point, you know, sometimes you say if this is what they do when the cameras are on, what do they do when they're off? But they're trying to demonstrate cruelty, to make people afraid of speaking up, of asking questions, of bearing witness. And that's why we feel like it's so important to be there bearing witness. And I was really moved when she, yesterday, after she was released, and I'll give credit to the ProPublica reporter who gave her the platform, to say, this is what we were fleeing. Like in Ecuador, they beat us, but we thought the United States was better or different from that. And we're insisting that it be better and different from that. So I don't know too much more about her status. They've come more recently. I believe the kids were born in Ecuador, so they're not citizens, but they're human beings. They don't deserve to see their father ripped from their mother's arms and their mom thrown to the ground by our tax dollars. And let's just remember, because I really don't want to make it seem like there's a line between that and the detention itself. The detentions that are taking place in 26 Federal Plaza are utterly lawless. These are all people who have come to court to appear before an immigration judge. They respond to the paper they have. The judge says, here's your court date, here's your next time to show up. And then these masked agents who don't identify themselves, who don't present warrants, who don't give any grounds for the abductions because they have no grounds for the abductions, act like thugs in the hallway. It is cruel and lawless. We're absolutely going to keep crying out for it. And one thing we've asked Eric Adams to do, and I'll be enthusiastic when Mayor Mamdani does it, is everybody who's got a lawyer at this point, more or less, has had their lawyer ask that they could have a virtual hearing. And they get to appear before the judge, but they don't have to go down to 26 Federal Plaza and risk being abducted or abused. But the city has not yet significantly scaled up the effort to make sure that everyone possible has representation, so they don't have to face what that family faced yesterday.
I think, as the controller said, that representation is key. And in addition, one of the key responsibilities of leadership is telling New Yorkers what you deem to be acceptable in the conduct as it pertains to the federal government and politics across this country. And amidst this horror, we have seen the current mayor abdicate that responsibility entirely. This is a position that has been described as having the second largest bully pulpit in the country. It is a platform with which you can extend dignity to each and every New Yorker, where you can say that when you look at that video, you know that you represent that woman as well as everyone who is here in this park. And yet what we have seen is silence at best from this mayor, and similarly from a former governor seeking to become the next mayor. And so what I will do is not just increase the lawyers we have to pre-pandemic levels to ensure that a storied law department finally has the backing so that it can continue on its record of protecting working class New Yorkers, but also to increase legal representation, as has been said, for immigrant New Yorkers facing these kinds of threats, and finally to ensure that we're using every tool, whether technical or also political, to stand up for the dignity of these same immigrant New Yorkers.
And can I just add something? As a state representative that's been fighting alongside Zohran or alongside Tony and others, it is critical that he has the partnership of those of us in Albany, and the fact that he got the endorsements of the three most important people in the room, no longer three men in the room, thankfully, but the two women and one man, made that support clear to work with Zohran as our next mayor. And we're going to have to pass policies at the state level that will certainly impact New Yorkers here in the city, and that includes the Access to Representation Act, which would fund that legal system and make sure everyone has access to a lawyer, and New York for All, that would prevent collusion at every level of government to ensure that we're not cooperating with ICE and we end these 287G programs.
We've got time for two more questions. We'll go Melissa.
Oh, is this on topic still? I've been off topic.
Off topic, fine.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Just one question, please.
Okay. So many New Yorkers agree with you. We heard you condemning the war in Gaza. You talked about it as playing head on a game when everybody is weighing in this mayor's race on the Prime Minister Netanyahu's remarks this morning. Some New Yorkers say that they don't hear you as often condemn Hamas or talk about bringing the hostages. So today, do you agree with Mr. Netanyahu's statement that Hamas is a terror organization that needs to be destroyed? And if you could speak the way you did on loudspeakers today to the 20 living hostages, what would your message be?
You know, I am not going to echo the words of Benjamin Netanyahu. I can, however, share my own words and say them right here, which is that my politics is built on a universality, and I can think of no better illustration of that than from the words of the hostage families themselves. Everyone for everyone. It is something that they have said for months. It is something that they have called for in not only understanding that those hostages must be released, but that this is intertwined with the end of this genocide. And there are so many of us who have called for ceasefires precisely because the greatest moment of relief, whether it be in the release of hostages or the ending of the Israeli military's killing of Palestinians, is in those very moments of the cessation of hostilities, of that ceasefire. And so when we call for this, it is a call for hostages and Palestinians alike and understanding their dignity. And what has been so infuriating to me and to so many New Yorkers, frankly, is Benjamin Netanyahu's use of the hostages as a justification to continue a war that has only continued to endanger the lives of those very hostages as well as of so many Palestinians. And to have a mayor who went to the United Nations to watch his address and then thank Benjamin Netanyahu for defending the Western world and our way of life. Those are the words that Eric Adams shared. I can't even begin to explain the offense that that brings to New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs. How can we describe the killing of a child once an hour, every hour for close to 2 years as a defense of our way of life? That is not a way of life that any of us practice in this city. What we want in this city is dignity for all. And the hostage families have given us an understanding of how to showcase that. And I have appreciated the moments, especially also ones that I have shared with Comptroller Lander, where we have mourned the deaths of Israelis and Palestinians alike and understood that there is no competition for humanity. There is only a struggle to ensure that it is extended to all people.
Okay, last question. We'll go Henry.
Hi, how you doing, Zoe?
Hey, Henry.
So actually, back to immigration, if I could,
Yes.
please. You mentioned following the Illinois governor's model as far as stopping ICE if you are elected mayor. Can you go into more detail there? Are you saying you would give your police commissioner and police department the directive to arrest ICE agents, and would you post them at immigration court?
What I'm saying is underlining the fact that no one is above the law. And I would work with my police commissioner to ensure that we're delivering actual public safety. And I've appreciated the current commissioner, Jessica Tisch, has made it clear that in the pursuit of public safety, we do not need the National Guard's deployment here in New York City. It does not serve to the advancement of that agenda. And I look at not only the example of Illinois, but also California, where the mayor of LA worked with the attorney general of the state, as well as the governor, to file a lawsuit against the deployment of the National Guard in that state. A judge recently found in their favor that that deployment was illegal. The attorney general of that state found that for every dollar they spent on legal fees, they recovered more than $32,000 in otherwise lost funding from the federal government. And I am thankful and proud, as Assemblywoman Gonzalez Rojas said, that I stand here with the endorsement of our equivalents of those leaders. The Attorney General Tish James, the Governor Kathy Hochul, and I look forward to working with them in fighting back against this federal administration. And I know that they have faced threats for their willingness to stand up for New Yorkers. I think of our Attorney General each and every day and the ways in which this federal government is seeking to make an example of her for having the audacity to hold them to account. We stand with her, and we stand with each and every New Yorker and the law that protects them to ensure that we actually deliver on the vision we have for the city.
Should the ICE agent be charged with a crime?
I think if the ICE agent has violated a law and is found to have done so, then yes, they should be charged. Everyone should be held to the same laws. We cannot have a separate system for those especially that are seeking to enforce those laws.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys very much.